have here? Yet another fan. This one here is, I swear, 50 years or older. That's what I was told. This is a Country Air, says from coast to coast, and it has this weird looking four-way thing on the front there to direct the air off each direction. On the back here has just a regular fence type covering there, and this fan will blow both ways, this way and the other way. It's got a intake and exhaust right here, intake and exhaust, so you got high, medium, low for each one of those. And then it has a thermal control over here, so when you turn this on, you can set this dial over here to shut off if it's blowing like winter in there, apparently. Of course, you know, I can't show you the full effect of it because the problem with this one is, well, for one, it's 50 plus years old, and when you turn it on, it only goes one speed no matter what. So I'm assuming the bearings are bad in this. It's probably lacking a lot of oil on those bearings because this particular fan has little tubes that go down to where the bearings are, and you drop a couple drops of oil in there to keep this thing lubed up. So I can turn it on and kind of show you. The switch up here has a little short in it. You turn it too far and it stops it. But there's low, there's medium, there's high. There's not a noticeable difference between them all. It should be spinning a lot faster than that, I'm assuming. So, in the back here, I noticed that the bearings must be wore out or something. Lift that up and it pops off. This here, you can see that moves in and out that much, probably 1/4 of an inch. It moved out more because this set screw is loose, so the fan blade itself is also moving in and out. So that 1/4 of an inch is probably too much play for the motor, and you know, being that it hasn't had oil in it forever, who knows what the bearings look like. Right here, if you can, I'll zoom in maybe here. Right here is one of the spots that you put oil in it. You just drip it down in that little hole, and I'm assuming there's one up in front too. So we ain't gonna bother with just oil in it. We're gonna actually tear it all apart, see what the bearings look like, see if we can get some kind of current measurements on the windings. Maybe there's something wrong. We'll do about the same thing we did on the last one, but who knows what we're going to find on this one, and it definitely needs a really good clean job. But that's what we're going to take a look at in this video. So if you remember it, this kind of fan, you know how old it is. Here's a close-up of the controls up there. I found the one on the back here. Get that set just right. Oops. Right here. it was covered with all this kind of dust and hair or whatever. You couldn't even see it in there. You're not getting nothing down it because of all the dust in there. You can see the high-tech, well, let me zoom this out, get it back to where we was. You can see all the high-tech wiring in here. Comes up here, over to the corner, got the plug in down here, and then it goes up into this box here. Fans are really high-tech stuff, so you got to be careful. That's a joke if you ain't getting it. All right, let's take this top part off here. There's 3 screws in here. Three screws to take this off. One right here, and one over here. And that'll take our top panel off. It's just a regular screwdriver. Let's see what's going on in there. Hopefully nothing comes crawling out of there. Like that spider right there. Could be worse in there, you never know. Turn this camera up a little bit. Let's see. I'm thinking it's just stuck. Let's see, maybe there's another. They hit 2 of them on me. We got 2 on this side. Probably easier with the regular screwdriver. There, now it's falling off like it should. That's what we have in there. I'll get you a close-up of that. So that's the thermal switch right there that you can adjust it to turn off at, freezing temperatures or roasting hot temperatures. There's the light, and there's the on-off, high, low, medium for both directions. That's it. A lot of dirt. This is video from my phone. This is what happens when we turn that thermo control. And I'm sure the electricity going through there has something to do with it. But you go down to 4 and it closes. As you move up to, I think it was 12, this thing will pop open and it won't be contacted anymore. So that's how that works. Alright, I'm holding the camera for a second because it's hard to film something this big when you're working on it, and staying out of the way of the camera and trying to get everything in and zooming in and out and all that kind of stuff to show you things. And I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do up here on the top to unhook that. It's nothing that outrageous or anything, but you can see I just got to undo a couple tie wire nuts, 3 of those, and then I have to take all these wires out of this switch over here. I already took pictures of it, so I know where everything's going to go back to, but I want to show you how to take the wires out of this thing. Get this camera set right, just in case you run into something like this and you're not sure how to get the wires out. All these wires do is they push in little spots that are in the side. Let's see if I can they push in those little holes right there. So what we have to do is we have to get something really small, like I got this Allen wrench here, and I'm just going to stick it inside the hole along with the wire and push just a little bit. Set this camera down a little bit. I'm just going to push a little bit because there's a little metal piece that kind of hinges in there. Push a little bit, and then the wire comes out. So that's how those go out. And when you want to put it back in, you just push it in, and then that little flap in there holds it in there. So that's how we're going to get all those out. So I'm going to take this thing and I'm going to totally disassemble everything, get the motor right off this thing with these 4 nuts right here, and then this whole thing should come out. Take the wires out of this and up in the top up here, and then of course it runs through that hole up on the top. I'm going to take it all out. I'm going to look at the motor. You'll see when I look at the motor, but I'd like to clean all this up and everything, but if the motor's not worth it, then there's no sense going through all the hassle. I charge extra for cleaning. Give you a little example of how dirty this thing was. This was before, and this is after I cleaned it just a little bit. It looks brand new. So it's just years and years of grime and dirt and everything you can think of. So, alright, so that's what I'm going to do. And I'll just set this camera up and you can kind of watch in fast speed. Alright, let's see if we can figure out what's going on the inside of here. Let's just tear this apart. There's some writing on here, and it says General Electric. Over here it says, looks like Fort Wayne, Indiana. And then over here on this side, which was kind of hard to read, it said Made in the USA. On the other side back here, this says 1,000 RPMs. This is SYUZ. I don't know what that stands for or anything. And then we have a, looks like a long part number or serial number or something. And this says, what was this? Horsepower or something. What was that? Oh, 1 pH. Thinking 1 horsepower or something. At 600 volts, or yeah, 600 volts for some reason, or 600 Y, 115 volts, 2.6 amps. So that's all we have for writing on that I seen on the outside of this. But, there you can see the play that's in that shaft. That's an awful lot, I think. Flat spot for the fan blade to tighten up against. So let's pop off these screws back here. I cleaned the outside a little bit, but the inside is going to be really dirty, I have a feeling. Hopefully we'll be able to get these off. Looks like they painted it afterwards. Because there is paint, there's paint on the wires and everything too, so they probably assembled it and then painted it. Right here you can see where the shiny part on this part, not the shaft, but this part, the fan blade pushed back and was rubbing up against this metal there. So you gotta make sure that set screw's tight. I think there's a burr on here, that's why I'm not able to get this over that. It's pretty rough. Let's see. Let's try this. It's a straight file, but I got a piece of sandpaper laying around somewhere. Still a little stuck. Let's just pull the whole thing out. So that's what we got on the inside. That's pretty dirty looking. Oh, even got a, it looks like a winding loose there, but not sure. So let me bring this to the camera. This is what it looks like. That must be for the oil. There's a little cut. You can see that dark line there. And then there's another dark line on this side. Same on this side here. You can see a dark line and then a dark line going this way, like a V. So I'm assuming that's where the oil gets dropped down in, and then it runs down those lines to help lubricate it. Well, I can tell you right now, that oil in them lines are dry because I can't scrape it out of there. So it must be just turned to dust, or there's a lot of dirt and dust in there that's making it so it's not lubing it up correctly. Doesn't feel too bad, the shafts. So the bearings definitely feel loose, like they're a little bit wore out. They actually feel worse than the last video I did with the big 30-inch fan, I think it was, 30-inch. This moves around a lot. So if everything else checks out and we end up just ordering some bearings, hopefully we can get some that still fit this shaft. This here is, wow. We got one little strand hanging right here. I don't know what's up with that one. Doesn't feel loose. It's definitely, let me get a light over here for you. It's definitely old looking. I don't even know if they make them like this anymore. So if it comes down to it, this whole thing would go in the garbage, or I know she ain't gonna want to buy a new motor for it. So, but you know, it's seen its days. It's probably ready to retire. And then there's the bearing down at the bottom, which I want to look at. And it's not a bearing. It's actually just what do you call it? Just it's a solid bearing. There's nothing that moves except for the oil that's around the shaft. So this shaft fits right in this hole, you know, a precise sized hole for this shaft, and then this oil that gets dripped down in there is what makes it spin around there easy. So if that's the case, we won't be replacing those, but we'll still see if we can find some bearings for this. If not, then this whole thing will just probably hit the garbage. Alright, so I'm going to try to get this, let me try to get this back off here. As I say, I'll clean it up a little bit more, and I don't even think I'm going to be able to get that off there. Beat it with the hammer a little bit and a screwdriver. It's almost like there's a gap in there, but I can't get my screwdriver in there. That's a hard, well, there's a hard plastic piece right there. That's what rides on that flat surface down there in the center. Same as on this side here. If I can get this off. Chew up that bearing a little bit more doing that. Yeah, it's just a flat surface down here that these ride on. Another stink bug in here. Boy, they must have been hiding. Of course they're dead. Alright. That's what we got on the inside of this. This part doesn't come out because it's spot welded in there or something, but that's it for now. Alright, just a little bit more about this. I cleaned it up, you can see, nice and shiny. This little washer here, plastic, rubber, I don't know what it is, that was inside here. And what's underneath that, which you probably not going to be able to see because of the light in here, and I always said I'm going to get better lighting and stuff, but there's felt right inside here, and on the other side, right down around here, there's felt in there, and that's what holds the oil from when you put the oil drops in here. It gets all in there and it soaks up all that felt in there, and then that keeps dripping on the shaft, and that's why you have to keep putting oil in there. I don't know how often, but because I don't have the manual on this or anything. But this bearing inside here, besides probably the little bit of damage that I did, this bearing on the inside is totally gone. It's really scratched up. There's a gouge out of it. So like somebody did what I did, but a lot worse back in the day. So this bearing is totally bad. But the bearing inside this part, down there on the bottom, that one is in good shape. But, you know, I don't know how much it wore down, but if it did, it wore pretty evenly. So that's what I got for now. I don't know if I can get this off here. I'm leaning more towards we're not going to be able to fix this, because the way this is all put together, this is pressed on there. I think it was made like this. This sat in some kind of a fixture. This little cap right here that's on the end sat in some kind of a fixture, and then each piece was put on there, and then this piece here looks like it was bonded on there, because this is some bond right here that oozed out. So I can probably get a screwdriver in there and pry this whole thing off, and that's how we'll get it all apart. But I'm guessing that's how they put it together. And if not that way, the total opposite. They put it this way and then just piled the stuff in there and then press this cap on. And the other side's exactly the same. So I don't see spot weld marks on there though, so that's why I think it's bonded. But until we actually tear one apart, like this one for instance, because it's no good the way it is, we'll find out exactly what they did. Well, that's pounding it from that side. This right here is really springy. It's spring steel, is I think what they call it. I don't know if this is how they took it apart, but that's how I'm working on taking it apart. I just don't want that to shoot out at me or hit anything else. I guess I could probably just keep doing it like this. There we go. All right. Well, there's the bearing, and there's the felt. I'm assuming that comes out, but might be bent down around there, so it might not. Yeah, there's little. Probably won't be able to see this, but because of the light, of course. But there's little. They got little holes milled in there, and this is stuck in one of those holes. I'll put a picture up. That way you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. It's just too hard to get the light going because I haven't got the lights in here that I want yet. So this is the felt that soaks up all the oil that's supposed to keep the bearing lubricated. And this is the bearing. See if I got it too close. This is the bearing. It's just a steel bearing. It's pretty chewed up on the inside. Now I might be able to get one. This says F-1 on it. If I can't get one of these, my uncle has a lathe and he could probably make me some. So if I can't find one, maybe that's the route we'll go. And then we can get it real close to the size what we need here, and then we'll be back in business again. Alright, so that's what I got for now. I'll see what else is going on here because we need to be able to get this back in there somehow. So, and I'm sure it'd be nice to change the felt, but we might not have to. This little hose that was in there, the filler tube, it looks like it just went in there like that, and then they turned it and stick it in there, and that's what holds it in there. As long as that ain't plugged, then you should be able to get oil in there. I know it looks pretty deformed, but right now I'm not willing to blow in it. Alright, there we go for now. Alright, I want to show you something. I don't know how much closer you can get with these bearings. I got my calipers. This shaft, you should be able to see that. This shaft is 501 about. Right, real close to 501, that's half an inch. It's 1/1000 over a half an inch. Okay? And that's the same on this side. The side here is 1/1000 over a half an inch. This bearing that I'm saying is bad and wore out. This one here is 3/1000. And I'm spinning it on there, so I'm making sure I get the high point, low points, whatever. And this has the gouges in it, remember. But that's 3/1000, 5 inches, or on half an inch, a 3/1000 over a half an inch. Okay, if I can say it right, then you'll understand. It's 3/1000 over a half an inch, and the shaft was 1/1000. So that's 2/1000 difference between the inside diameter of this and the outside diameter of that. Now, machining can get down more precise than that, but as far as a fan goes, I don't know if they go that close on tolerances. Because when you put this on here, I can wiggle this back and forth like this just a little bit, and that looks like a whole lot more than 2/1000. And it spins real nice on there. So once you get that thin layer of oil on there, this will spin even better. So if the other bearing inside here, which I'm probably not going to take apart, reads the same, then there's probably no sense of making new bearings for this or buying new bearings, because 2/1000 really isn't that much. This bearing I might have to see if I can get him to make, because of the fact that it's all scratched up on the inside, and it'll just continue to scratch the shaft as it spins. I sanded it a little bit with emery cloth and got all the high sharp points out of it, but you can still see the scratches in there. But yeah, I'm gonna have to think about this one a minute and Maybe I will have them just make one, but probably not the other one. I mean, if I can get that one out of there and measure it, 2/1000 is really not a lot, because you figure 1/1000 worth of oil and then you got 1/1000 worth of clay. Well, that's still not that much at all. And back then, maybe that was fine for fans. I think this one just quit working right because it never got oiled. And when you're putting oil in there, and if you get any kind of debris inside that little hole, and then you cram oil in there, and then you shove that little debris down inside the felt, if it makes it past the felt, then it makes it to the inside of this bearing, and then it scratches it all up, scratches the shaft, scratches this up. And this metal here is a lot softer than the metal on this shaft, because you can see I nicked it when I was beating it out of there and trying to get it out of there. I barely hit it and I gouged it, and it's so easy. I can just take this little file and go like this, and you can see a gouge that I put in there. So it's not very strong metal, so I'm going to think about this one. Alright, here's the back. I took that off, cleaned it all up, looks nice and shiny. I'm not going to take that out because I can get my calipers in here, because the bearing is smaller than the diameter of this edge right here, of this plate that's in here. So my calipers reach down there because of this little step right there in the calipers. They can reach down there and measure that bearing without being interfered with. So this one, and it depends on the shadow of the light, I'll try to get it right. This bearing reads almost about 2/1000 over a ½ inch. So this one is 1/1000 smaller than the front bearing, than this one. So this one is wore out because of what happened to the inside of it. 1/1000 of it wore out. So this is looser than this one here. So this one here I would consider good. So we probably are not going to do anything with this one. That should fit in there. And you know, it's such a really good fit. You get that thin layer of oil in there, and that thing will spin pretty dang good. So I think that bearing down there is going to stay, and I'm going to go see if my uncle can make me a new one of these for this other side and try to get it within 2/1000. Now, providing that all this is hunky-dory and there's nothing wrong with this, zoom that out a little bit, and there's nothing wrong with this, we should be able to throw this fan back together, get the oil put in there where it needs to be put, make sure the owner knows that, to oil it to every, who knows, depends on how much they use it. It's going to be in a Florida environment, so it'll be probably used quite a bit, I guess. Maybe oil it every month or something, I don't know. I'll have to see if I can find some data on this, but I probably won't be able to. So, that's where we sit for now. We still haven't done any measurements of the coils or anything. We'll get into that. We'll see if I can trace these wires and figure out what's going on with them. So it's been about 3 weeks, I guess, since I last did anything on this thing, anything major. We were waiting for bearings, which we have some new bronze bearings, thanks to my uncle. These were the originals, some kind of metal. I don't know if it's just regular steel rolled up or what, But I decided to try to go with some bronze this time. We'll see how that works. I could show you a little bit on the inside of these now, since I took them all the way apart because we were, you know, doing some measurements to make sure we got the new bushings done right. So that's kind of what that looks like on the inside. This is the back cover for it. It actually, I pushed something in here and it actually popped it right off the back. So this was on there like that. I just kept hitting it. I thought it was bonded. I mean, it looks like there's something right here. You can see this around there. I don't know what that is. I didn't dig at it, but it seems like some kind of bond. Here's our felt pieces that's on the inside that actually holds the oil. Our little inlet hole right there from the back with our little tube coming out. So these go in there like that. And then this piece right here, which I'm sure was flat at one time, but I had bent it up a little bit trying to get it out because I was taking it apart backwards or however. But these go in here like this. And actually this piece goes here, these go in the back, the bearing goes down in there, and then this goes on there like that. So that's what one looks like all took apart. And the front is the same thing. Also, I got some oil to put in there when we're ready to put it back together. And this is for electric motors. I was reading that you can't have any oil that has detergents in it or something because it damages bronze bushings. And I got this at our local Menards here. I took this and touched it up on the belt sander a little bit to get all that rust that was on there, get that off there. So that looks a lot better. I got the burrs off here. Everything fits real nice. The bearings go on there. Oops. Let's go this way. That one's specifically made for that one. This is the front. And our bearings have like no slop at all now, and they spin real nice on there. Just like brand new. Get a little bit of oil on there. This baby ought to hum really good. So that part's done. So what I'm going to do now is, since I have the bearings, we're going to get these and press them inside here. And I'll take that. If you watched my other video about the 30-inch fan, I showed you that I took it over to my brother's house and pressed them in with his press, and that's what I'm going to do with this. I'm just going to put it in there, put like a big washer sitting on there, you know, and then I'm just going to press it down so it's even with this top part right here. Hopefully I'll get them set in there, and then this won't have as much play as it did, but the more I look at it, the more that probably wasn't that bad for this type of fan way back then. But we'll see how that works out. The other thing I got looking at was our wiring. I got our wires labeled. I got our switch out. Our high, medium, and low for exhaust, and high, medium, low for intake, because the fan goes both ways. These four wires here, we have our common wire, our, let's say, power wire that comes in, and then we have our medium, our high, and our low wires. Now these 4 wires are used for both in the exhaust direction and in the intake direction. So that's those. Now these 3 wires over here, all 3 of these have continuity with each other, so they're all connected together. These are not in any way connected to any of these wires. So I come to the conclusion that somehow this fan needs to tell this motor, these wires and everything needs to tell this motor what direction you want this fan to go in by switching it into intake or exhaust. So when you do that, that's what these wires are for. It tells it which direction to spin the motor, either this way or this way, forward or reverse, whatever. Now this switch here is a little bit different. It's almost the same, but it's a little bit different than the 30-inch fan switch that I put in there. This has spots for 2 wires in each point. Okay, so this is our off position. This one here is going to be our common to our low, medium, and high. So we have our common, and then we have, this is our high is over here on this side, our low is down here on this side, and our medium is right here. Now these back holes are where these 3 wires that are connected to each other come in. I marked it as a common and then an exhaust and an intake. So our common will go here, so it's like it's feeding power no matter if the switch is in the exhaust or in the intake. But one of each of the other wires, the exhaust and intake wire, is either connected here or down here on the bottom on this side. This one is left empty. So depending on which way you want this fan to go, either the exhaust or the intake, these wires here actually tell the motor which direction to turn, being that they use the same exact 4 wires for the exhaust and the intake for the fan to go either way. Something has to tell the motor, okay, we're in exhaust mode, let's turn to the right. Okay, and then we turn it into intake mode. Something has to tell the fan, okay, we switched, now we got to go to the left. So that's what these wires are telling these wires to do. And that's all of our wires, besides the ones that go to our thermal control in our light, which I showed that those are just a couple wires here. So that's what we have. Hope I didn't confuse you too much on that. I think I just moved my camera a little bit, sorry. So now I'm going to take these over and press these bearings in. Oh, let me back up here 1 second. About the wires here, I am confident that the windings for our low, medium, and high are good, because I did some ohm checking, kind of like we did current checking in the current and ohm checking in the 30-inch fan. Our low wire, meaning our common, and our low wire, our red one, is 13.8 ohms. Our medium, our common and our medium wire, is 11.2 ohms, and our high is 6.1 ohms. So we have 3 different numbers here, so that means that they're not shorted together, so that's a good thing. So when we actually connect all this together and everything, we should have 3 different currents as well. So we're not going to go into that on this one, but At least that tells us that the windings in here should be good. We don't have to worry about that. Now, the top speed on this fan, I don't remember if I mentioned it or not. Yeah, on this back here, it said 1,000 RPMs, which is not that fast. It's not as fast as the big 30-inch fan that I worked on. And this one is kind of in the way like that one, to where by looking at these ohm readings here, there's not much difference in speed between the low and the medium, being that it's only like a 2 ohms difference. So the current reading won't be that big of a difference either. You'll see the fan or hear the fan pick up a little bit, but not that much. But when you go from low and medium to high, that's when you should hear the difference, because the high is only 6 ohms, and of course the current will be a lot more than what the medium and low is. So that's what I come up with that. I just wanted to throw that in there. So I'm going to put these bearings in there, and I think after that we're ready to try to throw this thing all back together and give it a whirl. Pun intended. Alright, we'll see you then. Here I got the parts I'm going to use to press these bearings in. Because we have this different, unique kind of a back to this, we need to be able to hold this, because when we put pressure down on this side here to push the bearing in here, it might bend this. I don't know, but it might. So what I did is I found a socket that just fits over that part that sticks out. You can see that part that sticks up right here. This fits over it snug. So this way, that when I press down on this, it will actually support it better than it will just trying to push the bearing through there like that. And I gotta hit it down just a little bit. There we go. So now, because the bearing sits down in here, I want to be able to hit the top of the bearing and have it stop when I get to the inside portion. When I get to this portion right here, that's where I want it to stop. So I got a little washer that's about that size that will reach that, and because this socket has an indent on the bottom here like this, I'm going to use this washer right here, because I don't want this to hopefully not put any marks in the top of this when we're pressing it down in there. So this will go in here. We'll put the washer on top like that, and then we'll put this socket right on top of it like that, and then we'll press it down. So let me put a dab of oil in there just to help this process of pushing this in there a little bit. I'm just using this oil that we got to oil the fan up. Put some of that in there. Just going to drip some around the edge of this. I want it to slide in there, and these bearings I think might be a little tight, so I'm hoping that it doesn't split the metal. I think it's like 1/1000 bigger than what it was. I mean, that's what my caliper said, but lately I think my calipers have been a little flaky, but let's try to get that as center as I can. Get this in here. Let's see. It's going to be a little tough holding this until we get it started. Things might look a little crooked, but we'll start it and then we'll take a look at it. Okay, I'm just going to raise this back up a little bit because I want to see the progress before I go all the way. It looks pretty good. So let's go all the way. Now the washer's sitting flatter too, so that's good. Make sure we're under here straight again. Nice and easy. And that's where it's hitting right there, so I don't want to go too much more if that's where we need to be. Raise this up out of the way and we'll see. Yep, the washer is hitting the spot where it needs to hit. The bearing looks down where it should be. Looks like it went in there okay, and let's see if we can pull this back off. That might be a little tight. Oh, there it came. Come off pretty good. You can see that how far the bearing went through the bottom of it. So we're going to do the same thing to the other one. Hopefully it works out just as good as this one did. It should be in there nice and straight because it already followed the metal from the housing. Alright, let me get the other one. Again, this will fit on the bottom, hopefully. I don't know if they're a little different or what, but it seems like it might be a little different. Let me tap it on there. A little bit of persuasion shouldn't hurt it. We'll just have to do that to get it off too. But I don't want it to rip the metal on the inside when we're pressing the bearing in. So let's put some oil around there. Oil around the bearing, or the bushing. Bearings, I'm assuming, well, I guess they're all bearings, but you think of bearings as having ball bearings in them and bushings as being just a piece of metal like that. I know I've set them different the whole time, but I'm hoping you get my drift. Alright, seems like it was good like the last one, so I'm just gonna go ahead and keep pressing it in. Don't seem like it's too much pressure I have to push to get it in there. And that's about it right there. Washer's down where it needs to be. Bearing looks like it's down where it needs to be. See, that one's in there real nice. Alright. That looks like that might be it. So I know I'm going to have to beat this thing off here and get this off here, so I'll do that off the camera, but shouldn't damage anything. Alright, then back to the bench to put this together. Alright, so I'm ready to put this motor together. I wanted to show you, before I assemble this stuff here, how the oiling works. If you're not familiar with this kind of stuff here, like I wasn't for a long time, but some of your old house furnaces do use this, real old ones. That little tube comes in here and it soaks all this felt so that it keeps the bushing lubed. So I was just going to show you just a little bit on how, when you push oil through there, how easy it is for the oil to get into that area. So when you're ever oiling something like this, don't really cake it in there because you'll get way too much. So if you watch right about here, you'll be able to see it, the oil ooze in right there. And I'm just going to squeeze this just a little bit. See that oil going there? That was just a little bit. When we get this all together, we'll have to do that and fill them all up and make sure that they're well lubed. Don't want to ruin them new bearings, bushings, sorry, keep saying bearings, same thing though. Alright, so we got to try to put this together. Alright, we're going to try this again. This is, I'll admit, this has to be my worst repair yet because of so many mistakes that I've made after things are put together or whatever. I just realized after I ran the power cord through here, getting ready to put the motor on there, I put the screws that hold the motor together in the opposite way. They weren't supposed to be sticking out the front, they were supposed to be sticking out the back here. So yeah, I'm having one of those days with this repair. So let's continue on. All we got left to do now is test it. Plug it in. I have our thermal control off. Here's intake coming out towards the camera. I can feel it. Turn our thermal control down and our red light should come on, and it shuts it off whenever the temperature gets whatever you set the thermal control on. Right now it's set on 10 and it goes off. Turn it back on. So that's how that works. We got medium. There's medium, and there's low. Low probably puts out about as much as medium does from what our resistance readings showed us. Alright, so it looks good. Let's try it the other way. Wait till it stops. Here's high on the exhaust, so now it's going to suck air this way, blow it out the other side. Works there. Medium. And there's low. vibration panel here. Alright, that looks good. Another success. It's good, it made me happy. Glad everything worked out after all the mistakes I made. But alright, I guess we'll see you on the next one.